Okay, so what we have today, we're going to be making a Citra Pale Ale extract kit over here. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to take our grain, our specialty grains, and we're going to go ahead and put them in the steeping bag so that we can steep it once the water gets to 150 degrees. We have actually 3 gallons of water that's over here in our brew kettle right now. What I'll usually do is just kind of split it in half. I boil about 3 gallons in the beginning, and then what we'll do is later on in the process we'll go ahead and add 2 more gallons to complete our 5 gallon. But those other 2 gallons will already be in our fermentation vessel, and they'll be cold once you put them in there. I also have already prepped my sanitized utensils over here. Everything's already been washed and sanitized, so all of our tools are ready to go once we can get the water up to the correct temp. Okay, so here we have our specialty grains. So as you can see per the instructions, we've got 8 ounces of white wheat, 8 ounces of Carapelis, and 12 ounces of Crystal 15. So you can see them right here. White wheat, Crystal, and the Carapelis. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and add those to the grain bag, and I'll show you that once it's in there. Okay, so here we have our grain bag. It's got all the grain in there. We're about ready to do our steeping for specialty grains. Over here, the temperature of the water, we've brought it up to about 155. It should be a little bit past that. We're going to be leaving it for about 45 minutes in there. So we'll go ahead and tie off our steeping bag. We can probably hang that off the side here. So we're going to put it in. I'm gonna give it a few dunks here. Make sure it gets all completely wet in here. Go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and hang it off the side here. Tie it off, and then we'll go ahead and set our timer over here on the stove. We're going to set it for about, say, 45. Oh, let's give it a good 30 minutes, and we'll check back after the steeping grades are complete. Okay, so we got about 12 minutes left in the steeping here. I've actually turned back on the heat just a little bit there because the temp was dropping down to about 142. I want to bring that up, get us back up to maybe like 155, 160 for the remainder of the steep. I've added the lid so that we can actually keep some of that good heat in. It's going to steep our grains. Take a look here. I've also kind of steeped it a little bit to kind of get, move around the grains a little bit and get the more absorption out of those grains. So we'll go ahead and give a little check to the temp real quick here. Let me see what we have here. So we're almost back up to 160, and so just a little bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the, leave it for a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and turn off the heat and let it continue the rest of the steep. Okay. Okay. So now we've had the steeping grains in here for about 30 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and just give it a nice little kind of tea bag into the water, just to get the last bit of, make sure we get all the juice that we can out of here. So steep them up here. I'm actually going to grab the lid here and set it off to the side because I'm going to empty the grains out and clean the bag so that I can use it again for my my hop addition during the boil. So just give it maybe one more little bit of this right here, and we'll just let it drain out. You don't want to squeeze the bag because that will release what you don't want out of the grains. And get as much as we can so we can get all those sugars that have been absorbed in the grain and get the sugars out into our wort here. Okay, that should be pretty good. I'll just set them over here. I'll deal with those in a second here. Now what we want to do is we just want to go ahead and light our stove back up. And we're going to go ahead and bring the wort to a boil now. So it should get up to about I think boiling is like 220 degrees or so. And once it gets to a boil, we'll show you the additions of the malt extract, and we're also going to be adding maltodextrin into the wort today. Okay, so now we've got our wort has come up to a boil. Now we're going to take our malt extract and we're going to go ahead and add it to our boiling temperature to wort. Let's see, I've never used one of these bags, so maybe have to cut it here a little bit, get into it. I'm going to cut it all the way across here. Okay, now for this, you might need a little bit of assistance because as you pour it in, you'll want somebody to be there actually stirring. Go ahead and stir. So you want to just add it in slowly to the boiling wort here. You want to make sure that when you're stirring it, you gotta do the stirring so that when you're adding the syrup, it's not actually hitting the bottom, because if it hits the bottom of that hot pan, it's going to caramelize, and we don't want that. Also, too, before adding this, you want to go ahead and take it off the heat to also avoid the caramelization of the malt extract. So I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze as much as I can out of this so we can get all those good sugars in our wort. This is the first time I've actually used this packet type of malt extract. I've used the kind in the bottles before, but it seems like this might be a little easier to get more of it out because it's in the packet. You can kind of squeeze it and get all that out. so now we've got all of our malt extract out of our bag here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and keep stirring it here. Make sure we get a good stir. Now that we've got the malt extract in here, we're going to go ahead and raise our heat back up. We're going to go ahead and I'm actually going to go ahead and actually put a top on this real quick. But I've heard you're not actually supposed to top this because it's better if as the sugars are being broken down, the steam that comes off, you don't want to get that back into your wort. I'm just going to go ahead and put a top on a little bit so I can raise up the temperature, get my rolling boil back going on, and we'll be bringing back once we are going to do our hop additions, okay? Alright, so now we've brought our wort back to a boil here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our, we're going to start a timer and we're going to do our first hop addition here. So we got our hop selection right here. The first one we're going to start off with, according to our recipe here, is going to be the Magnum hop. Okay, so that's going to be for the bittering. Okay, and we're going to start a timer for 60 minutes at this point. So let me go ahead and hold the camera off there. And we've got our nylon bag here. In this nylon bag, and we're going to go ahead and open up our hot bag here. Okay, and so what we're going to do, so we're going to go ahead and take our Magnum hops. It's 0.5 ounces in this container. We're going to the nylon bag. I actually used the same one that I used for steeping the grains. I just washed it out, and now we're going to go ahead and add our hops to it. This is the first time I'm actually hopping. Doing the hop additions with the nylon bag. Supposedly, if you do this, supposed to get a nice little bit less sediment, a little bit less extra things into your fermenter. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of set that in here. These hops, should see them expand a little bit. Usually I add them to it, so the hops actually. I don't ever see them. They just get absorbed by the liquid. So we're just gonna have to tie this off. You don't want to lose it. You want to go ahead and just let it go. You want to make sure it's kind of secured on here, so that your whole bag doesn't go in there. Because we're gonna have to do it for the rest of the hop additions. We're gonna need this bag to be able to access it. So. Kind of tie that off there on the side there. I'm gonna go ahead and set our timer here. The timer is gonna go set for 60 minutes. We're now starting our actual boil. Past 60 an hour. So we got our hops in there. We got our hops in there. We're starting to boil. I may top this a little bit just so I can get a little bit more boil going, and then we will be back at 15 minutes left in the boil to go ahead and add in our first 1 ounce Citra addition. Okay, so we have our boil here. We're actually about 10 minutes into the boil. I was looking over the recipe, and one of the ingredients I forgot to add along with the malt extract. The ingredient's actually going to be this. It's going to be the maltodextrin. I've read a little bit about this. It sounds like it's supposed to add like more body, more head retention to the beer. I've never used this before, so that's probably why I missed it this time. But we'll see what it does and what the final outcome is of it. We're only 10 minutes into the boil, so it's not really that major of an incident here. It's kind of one of those I've heard in other videos where it's not a good idea to be having a brew while you're brewing, because you can forget things or get boil overs, but we're not too bad off here. So we'll go ahead and just add this slowly. I'm just gonna go ahead and add. Let me get my other hand in here. See if I can get a little stir on it. I don't want to have anything stick to the bottom or anything to the sides. I don't want to get anything to accidentally caramelize here. You gotta be careful with these bags here. Also, if you do like dry malt extract, you gotta be careful, because the dry malt extract, as you're pouring it, if you get it too close to the heat, it's actually going to kind of like stick onto the end of the bag there. So we'll get the rest of this in here. Goodness in here. All right, throw it to the side. Go ahead and it's trying to stick to the hot bag. That's okay. I'll go ahead and just kind of stir this. It's actually doing a little bit of clumping here, so I'm gonna have to add some heat on it. Get the boil, because when I take off the top for a little bit, it starts to not boil as much. So we have to add scoop off the bottom, make sure nothing is on the bottom there. So go ahead and add the top on here. Get a little boil, mix it in, make sure all those little pieces get diluted in the wort. Okay, so now we have 15 minutes left in the boil. We're going to take our hop bag right here, and we're going to take our flavoring hop addition, which is going to be 1 ounce of Citra hop. We're going to go ahead and add that to the bag here. It's all added in. Close it off here. I'm gonna give it a nice little dunk in here, so the hops, as you can see, the hops are expanding. Look at that. Look at how much that expands. So you can actually that's all hop right here. So we're gonna give it a little dunk right here, so the Magnum hops can mix up with the Citra hops. The Citra hops are gonna be our flavoring and our aroma. We're also gonna do a dry hop. But that's going to be later on, after we've already added to the fermenter and it's been in there for about a week. So let's go ahead and tie off back over here to our handle. We're going to go ahead and see if you can see into the pot right there. It's actually, you can see the hops are actually already starting to mix into our wort. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring up our boiling temperature a little bit by covering up the top a little bit there. And we'll be back in about 10 minutes for the final hop addition to the wort. Okay, so we're here with the 5 minutes left to the boil. We're going to actually add 2 ingredients right now. The first ingredient is going to be the Citra hop. It's since this is actually a Citra pale ale, it's got a lot of Citra hop in it. So this is the second Citra hop addition that we're going to be doing to this. So we've got our hop bag open right here. You can see how much those hops have expanded. They expand quite a bit. It's the first time, like I said, doing it in the in a knit bag for the hop additions, but it's amazing how much they expand. So we've added those Citra hops, okay? So those will get nice and mixed in with the rest of the hops. The second ingredient that we're going to add is actually this. It's a clarifier. It's a Werflock. I never added this before. All my other beers have come out really clear. There has been a little bit of hazing that I've seen in those. Once I've seen hazing in my other beers when you actually put them like in the freezer or for an extended period of time. But normally they've been very clear. So with this tablet, from what I've seen in the past with others, you actually just add this to the beer itself. So you drop it in there, it's going to go ahead and actually dissolve itself. It looks like it's almost like Alka-Seltzer in there. If you can see it, it's just getting eaten up right there. So we'll go ahead and leave that one alone so we can get the rest of our time in the boil here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the string. Again, I'm just going to do a little bit of like a little tea bag here. I'm going to try and mix it around a little bit with the bag. Try and see if we can get that tablet to go underneath here. It's still dissolving. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and tie this off right here, off to the side like we did before. I'm actually going to go ahead and put the top on for a little bit so we can get ourselves a nice boil going before the end of the boil, and we'll be right back for the stop of the boil. Okay, so now we're at the end of our boil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lift off our top. I've already shut off the heat, so we're going to go ahead and take out our hot bag. I'm going to let that drip for a second here. Okay, it looks like that's about all of it. You can see a lot of the liquid is drained out. So you're trying to get out whatever the hops had absorbed. Getting that liquid out so that we can get all that hop niceness. Especially since this is a pale ale, we definitely want to taste the hops. So I'm just going to get that as much as we can out of there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the sink. That we will dispose of in a second here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to add the top back on this. We're actually going to be using, I'm going to get my nice mittens on here. So we're going to go and move this this kettle over. We're going to do an ice bath. Trying to move to a wort chiller, a submersion wort chiller, but it's not in yet. So we're still going to work with some ice bath. So here we go. We're going to move this off here. Let's move over to our ice bath. I've got a bucket here that's filled with ice water here down at the bottom. You see how close I got the water estimate. Let's see, maybe I need to add some more ice there. If I could, I want to go ahead and lift this off real quick. If I could get my assistant to add some ice, some more ice here, real quick to the bath. I just want to bring up the ice level a little bit here. That would be good. So I want to add up the ice level here a little bit. So right now we're new. So the ice is completely submerged, or the kettle is completely submerged there. We're gonna go ahead and let that go ahead and cool down. Temperature right now is about 120 degrees. We're going to go ahead and let that cool down. We're going to try and bring it down as close as we can because when we add it to the fermenter, we want it down as much as possible so that the actual temperature can be about 75-80 degrees once it's in the fermentation vessel, so that we can pitch our yeast at a good temperature and get the fermentation started. Okay, so it's been about 5-8 minutes. I just want to do a temperature check right here. So it's been submerged, got a lot of steam coming off. So we're just going to check the temperature. I think I misspoke before. The temperature is actually supposed to be, when it's boiling, it's going to be about 220 degrees. And so we need to get it down to, when it goes in the fermenter, we push the yeast, it's actually got to be at 80 degrees, the total wort temperature. So right here we've got about 3 gallons. Maybe add some cold water later to bring it up to 5 gallons total that we're putting into the fermenter. But let's go ahead and check the temperature right here. So I've already sterilized this. When I washed it, and I made sure that we got a good sanitation on it. So right now, let me move my hand here. We'll get a little zoom in. So right now, we're actually about 140 degrees. So we're going to leave it a little bit more. We'll probably add a little bit more ice. And then, well, actually, the temperature looks like maybe dropping, going up and down. Depends. So we'll go ahead and maybe add a little bit more ice. And once we get a little bit lower temperature, we'll go ahead and go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes or so. We're going to go ahead and check the temperature here. So if you can see here, we have added up ice a couple times. So let's go ahead and check it. We've got a temperature. The temperature is about 100 degrees, 100 or so in the middle. To the sides, though, it's actually dropping. It's about to the sides. It's about like 90 degrees. So we actually, it looks like we have the cold break happening right now. So it looks like that's going on. Well, actually, I want to go ahead and move this to my carboy. So we're going to go ahead and prep for that, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, we have we're going to add 2 gallons of refrigerated water right now. Our wort's still a little cold, so we're just going to go ahead and add these in. Adding it through a siphon, like this right here, it's actually going to aerate the wort as it's going in. The colder the water that's cold actually is going to aerate it better as you're adding it in here. So we're just going to go ahead and add 2 gallons in here. Okay, now we've got 2 gallons in there. We're actually going to go ahead and take our wort that we've already gone and taken out of the ice bath. Just going to go ahead and get a good hand on this. So we've got a strainer over there. That's going to help us with some aeration, and it's also just going to make sure that nothing extra gets inside there. So we're going to go ahead and start the pour into our fermentation vessel. Okay, so we've already got all of our wort outside of here. We're just going to go ahead and some of this, just make sure we get all the liquid inside the fermentation vessel. So you got that right there, okay. Now what we're going to do, we've got a marker here where it's going to bring us to 5 gallons. We're still missing a little bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the remainder of the missing water here. Again, passing it through here, gonna give us some aeration as we're going into our fermenter. Now I'm looking for this liquid line right here. I'm not really too interested with the foam that we've managed to build up on the top here. So about right there should be good. I think I marked it a little bit high on purpose there. But now we've got all our wort inside our fermentation vessel. We'll be right back when we go ahead and pitch our yeast. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're actually going to take a sample of our wort here so that we can test the gravity, find out how much alcohol we have potentially here within the wort. So we're just going to take a little sample here. Actually, a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and grab my hydrometer over here. Got my hydrometer nice and sanitized. Let me go ahead and add this in here. Okay, so our hydrometer reading, let me find where it's at. Gonna get it in the center here. Okay, so our hydrometer reading is probably about about 1.040 it looks like. So that's it's a little bit low, but I wanted to make sure we reach the 5-gallon mark on there. So we'll go ahead. In previous batches, I've actually I've gone by just gravity of what it says on the instructions. But we'll go ahead and we'll ferment this and see what's going on. Okay, right now we've got ale yeast, California 5, WLP051. Now we're going to go ahead, I've already shaken this up quite a bit. Actually, this time I'm going to go ahead and put the top on here, and I'm going to open it up facing down, because I've had experience before where if you open it up, if you shake it and then open it up, it has a tendency to explode a little bit. So we're just going to go ahead and open it downward here. We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's kind of got a little bit of exploitation going on here. And I've made sure that actually on the outside of the yeast container, I've actually completely washed it and sanitized it, so that we're completely sanitized here as we're going into our fermenter. I just want to make sure that we get all that goodness right in there. Okay, so now we've got our yeast in there. What we're actually going to do next, I've got my carboy bung right here. So what I'm going to do, this has also been sanitized. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that on the top here. We'll go ahead and I'm going to slightly tilt this here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my thumb over the top, and I'm going to agitate the fermenter. Now when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that the yeast, for one, gets completely circulated in here, and for two, this is helping the yeast, along with the wort, get some agitation and get some aeration to hopefully help along fermentation once we set this aside here. So we're just kind of going to do this for the next couple minutes here. And then we'll go ahead and set this aside and put the bubbler on top and finish up the videos here. Okay, so now we've got our carboy, and it's been properly aerated with our yeast inside. What I've got here is I've got my airlock. I'm gonna go ahead and I've securely put the bung in there. I'm gonna go ahead and add my airlock on top of there. I've set it off to the correct levels. So now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to clean off my carboy. I'm going to go get it set up for its final resting location in a nice cool dark space, and we'll watch fermentation. Hopefully it should have started in the next 5 or 10 hours.